You made it this far because deep down, something in you is already tired of the lies. But let's be clear, the price of lucidity is often isolation. Believe me, the haters have already arrived. And they're not just women. They're also men, grown adults with shaved faces but childish souls who still can't face what psychoanalysis reveals. They ask, who are you to say what a red flag woman is? The answer is simple: we don't speak from the outside. We speak from within the structure, the symptom, the patterns that repeat in every failed relationship, where female desire turns into a minefield, and the man, not understanding what's happening, ends up feeling guilty. The most curious part, emotionally blind men are the ones who get hurt the most because, in some way, they still try to love pain as if it were love. They try to justify the symptom as if it were freedom, manipulation as charm, and hysteria as personality. Here, we don't romanticize trauma, we interpret it. Because every symptom that goes uninterpreted simply repeats itself. And you know that. You were once the guy who tried to fix her emotions, and in the end, it was you who fell apart. This video isn't about saving a red flag woman. It's about preventing you from continuing to become a servant to her traumas. Because she doesn't want love. She wants an audience. She's not seeking connection. She's seeking control. And if you don't understand the structure, she will dominate you with a smile. The truth is simple. We're not here to please anyone. We're here to expose what many people don't have the courage to say. Behind much of the so-called female authenticity, you see out there lies unresolved resentment, wounded narcissism, and a twisted pleasure in destroying the other. And if you keep calling that empowerment, brace yourself. You'll be the next to pay the price. And yes, it's paid with your soul. This channel is a totem, a refuge, a space for men who are tired of being punished simply for loving the wrong way. There's no whining here. There's psychoanalysis. There's structure. There's surgical precision in the symbolic. If this video bothers you, good. It might be a sign that you're still trapped in the symptom that destroyed you. And worse, that you still insist on calling it love. Like, comment, subscribe. Here your voice is still allowed, but only if you have the courage to face what most people prefer to deny. The first psychic structure of the red flag woman. Seduction as symbolic punishment against the masculine. She doesn't engage. She tests. She captures. She humiliates. Here, seduction isn't an act of surrender. It's an act of domination. She doesn't dress to be admired. She dresses to subjugate. Every neckline, every word calculated to the millimeter, every ambiguous glance. It's a trap, a tightly tied knot around the ego of a weak man. She learned early on that being desired is power, and decided to turn that into a method. There's no spontaneity, no emotional need, only strategy. Every one of your replies is analyzed like a move on a chessboard. She wants to know how far you're willing to lose yourself for her. And the more you give in, the more she revels in the control she wields. For her, a relationship isn't an exchange. It's a stage, a performance. You walk in thinking it's love. By the time you realize, it's already too late. You've become an actor in a script you didn't write. And guess what? The role she's cast you in is simple: emotional servant, love-struck fool. A man who pays with soul and with card. Seduction here isn't meant to create connection. It's meant to create debt. Every kiss is a symbolic coin. Every compliment she accepts is just a few more cents of authority she stacks up, only to later charge you in the currency of contempt, indifference, and emotional blackmail. And when you finally try to walk away, she puts on the saint costume. Suddenly, you are the ungrateful one. The cruelest part. She doesn't even need to like you. It's enough that you like her. Seduction in this case has nothing to do with love. It's food for a wounded narcissism she's never had the courage to face. But this game was never about love. It's about victory. She doesn't want companionship. She wants an audience. A submissive audience. One that obeys. This woman doesn't enter your life to love. She enters to win. And when she wins, she loses interest. Because what really turned her on wasn't the bond. It was the control. The day you surrender, she loses the thrill. Because deep down, what she was really after wasn't you. It was the reflection of her own power over you. Seduction in this context is the silent revenge of a repressed wound she never worked through. But make no mistake, it's not unconscious, it's calculated, it's methodical, and if you don't understand this dynamic, you'll end up calling charm what is, in reality, emotional manipulation disguised as desire. Every man who's ever loved a red flag woman knows that first kiss was never the doorway into a relationship. It was the initiation ritual into a battlefield, and she walked in already armed. The second psychic structure of the red flag woman, the performance of autonomy as a shield against any real bond. She repeats it like a mantra. I'm independent. I don't need anyone. But the truth is, what she calls freedom is just fear. Fear of being touched where it truly matters. In the disorganized soul, she hides behind the facade of a put-together woman. She doesn't want a partner. She wants an audience. Every post about self-love, every catchy phrase about never settling for less, every speech about being a strong woman, it's all varnish, a performance. Her autonomy is aesthetic, image-based, but deep down, her emotional life remains childish. She wants to be served, not to give. She brags about not depending on any man, but constantly demands emotional investment without offering reciprocity. She wants the gestures of love without the commitment. She wants loyalty without emotional responsibility. She wants to be chosen but never wants to commit to the choice. That famous, "I'm enough for myself," is just a mask, a fantasy crafted by someone who, in reality, doesn't know and can't bear to truly love. And she knows this. That's why she casts the man as the invader. If he tries to reach beyond the performance, she rejects, attacks, accuses. She only allows herself to be loved when she holds absolute control. Because she doesn't know and doesn't tolerate genuine love. All that apparent self-sufficiency is nothing more than a narcissistic survival strategy. She builds armor, protects herself from being touched by another's desire, and when a man tries to pierce that armor with sincere affection, she devalues him. Because to her, love that can't be controlled must be destroyed. She's not looking for connection. She's fighting to preserve the image she built of herself untouchable, desired free. And any man who dares to truly love this woman becomes a target. Because for her, love is a threat to the carefully crafted narrative she built. Just so she wouldn't have to change. If someone sees that behind the pose lies a child frozen in emotional time, the whole structure collapses. And she doesn't run, she attacks. Because deep down, she doesn't want connection. She wants sovereignty. If you don't understand this, you'll end up calling a strong woman someone who's really just hiding behind a version of freedom she invented so she'd never, ever have to commit to anyone, not even herself. The third psychic structure of the red flag woman, the unconscious pleasure in destructive repetition disguised as a love story. She says she wants a healthy relationship, says she's looking for peace, stability, mutual love. But in practice, she only gets involved with men who confirm, again and again, her own psychic wound. When she meets someone who offers real affection, genuine care, and emotional safety, she sabotages it. Because deep down, stable love threatens her symbolic addiction, the addiction to suffering. This woman doesn't love peace, she loves drama. Because it's in drama that she feels alive. It's the emotional roller coaster that gives her life meaning, to fill the void inside her. The problem is never the man. The problem is boredom. The boredom of living a kind of love that doesn't place her at the center as a victim, a martyr, or a misunderstood heroine. That's why she repeats destructive relationships, not because of bad luck, not because she hasn't found the right one, but because that's the only place where she feels she has control. She almost always chooses emotionally unavailable, cold, distant men, because that's her terrain, a battlefield she knows how to navigate. And when a man shows up ready to truly love her, she doesn't recognize it. She rejects it. She destroys it. Because deep down, this is an internal script, an emotional blueprint written in childhood. She learned early on that love hurts, that care wounds, that those who love too much die inside. So to protect herself, she learned to pretend. Pretends to love. Pretends to want something serious. But her psychic structure isn't seeking healing. She is unconsciously seeking confirmation of her trauma. The man who tries to love a red flag woman ends up without realizing it, becoming the mirror of everything she hates most: stability, calm, predictability. And she'll do everything she can to destroy that reflection, because your calm exposes the inner chaos she tries so hard to hide. And being seen like that, she can't bear it, so she attacks. She doesn't want love, she wants the cycle, the game, the repetition. She needs to be hurt so she can complain, accuse, dramatize. And if you don't hurt her, don't worry, she'll hurt herself and then blame you for not stopping it. Because the red flag woman isn't seeking connection, she's seeking scenes, stages, chaotic storylines. She needs messy, dysfunctional scripts just to feel alive, because in the silence of true love, she comes face to face with herself, and what she sees is unbearable. So she prefers the hell she knows over the paradise that demands emotional maturity. If you don't understand this dynamic, you'll believe her when she says, "I just want someone to truly love me." And you'll fall unknowingly into the trap of performed affection, paying the emotional price of being the man who tried to love someone who only knows how to orgasm from her own destruction. The fourth psychic structure of the red flag woman, the symbolic replacement of the paternal function by the man she chooses to love. This woman is not looking for a partner. She's unconsciously searching for a father's substitute. The father who never said no, the father who was absent, permissive, neglectful, or emotionally unavailable. When she finds a man willing to care for her, she doesn't see him as a companion. She sees him as the one who must fill the role that was left empty. The provider, the regulator, the emotional judge of her unmet needs. She's not looking for adult love, she's looking for psychic permission. She wants to be validated, not loved, and the man who tries to be a partner unknowingly becomes a symbolic father figure, constantly being tested. Every contradiction, a charge; every gesture of love, an added demand; every silence, emotional punishment. Because the absence of a true paternal function created a void in her, a void she can only try to fill through control. She tests, provokes, and escalates, not to see if you love her, but to make sure you obey, that you bend, that you submit. At this point, the drama is no longer relational, it's Oedipal. She's trapped in a psychic theater, unconsciously repeating the cycle of confronting, dominating, and punishing the masculine figure. And when the man refuses to play this game, she accuses him. You're weak, you're cold, you're a coward. What she wants is an emotional authority, but one that never confronts her, that adores her, that accepts everything without limits. She wants a man who says yes to every whim, a man who is present but silent, strong but submissive, the masculine but tamed. But there is no desire where there is subservience. And when a man bends too much to please her, she ends up despising him, because deep down, what she was searching for was never a man who kneels in the name of love, but a symbolic father to guide her. And that man, of course, doesn't exist. The red flag woman lives trapped in a psychic paradox. She demands a masculine presence that is absolute, constant, and solid, yet at the same time, she sabotages any real form of authority. Because the paternal function was never internalized. It wasn't built within. It was projected onto the other, the man she chooses. And any man who accepts this role ends up crushed, suffocated by the weight of a desire that was never his to carry. Because in truth, she doesn't want a man who loves her. She wants someone to carry her emotionally, someone who unknowingly assumes the guilt of the absent father, someone who pays, in body, soul, and affection, the price of a past she never processed. And if you don't understand this dynamic, you'll slowly become the symbolic father of an adult woman. A woman who demands love with the emotional posture of a spoiled daughter. The fifth psychic structure of the red flag woman, the early sexualization of her own body as a tool of power and symbolic blackmail. She learned early on that her body draws attention. And instead of developing bonds, affection, or emotional ties, she developed performance. She became a character in her own desire, but not a desire directed toward the other. Rather, toward her own reflection. The red flag woman doesn't offer love. She offers image. Every provocative outfit, every selfie disguised as self-love, every caption about sexual freedom are, in truth, emotional traps. She doesn't seduce to love. She seduces to be adored. The man in her life is not treated as a subject. He is the audience. She wears desire like armor. She learns very early to manipulate the desire of others to maintain control of the narrative. Sexualization here is not spontaneous. It's strategy. Every gesture, every glance, every sensual movement is calculated to leave the man captive, conflicted, and confused, caught between the desire he feels and the growing disrespect he develops for her and for himself. She becomes a fetish, and then blames the man for not loving her beyond the surface. But it was she who only ever offered the shell, because real love demands vulnerability, and that she does not give. What she offers is her body in exchange for attention, a face in exchange for devotion, a fantasy in exchange for obedience. Her sexuality is not surrender, it's theater. And when the man begins to crave something beyond the stage, when he seeks real affection, genuine connection, she accuses, "You're trying to control me. You're being sexist," because her greatest fear is to be seen without the goddess costume. Because behind that calculated eroticism, there is a fragile self, without consistency, without roots, without structure. Extreme sexualization is the language of a narcissism that no longer knows how to love without performing. She turns her own body into psychic capital, and the closer a man tries to get, truly get, the more she punishes him. Because genuine touch threatens the illusion she built about herself. This kind of woman measures love by reaction. If you get jealous, she feels desired. If you pull away, she comes back with even more skin on display. Because deep down, there's no relationship, there's a game, and the prize in this game is always the same: to feed her own narcissism at the cost of a man's sanity. Every man who tries to love this woman deeply sinks, because she never steps off the stage, and the stage was never a place for love. It's a place for performance. And you, at best, become a supporting role in a play she wrote alone. You weren't invited to love. You were summoned as the audience. Her desire was never for connection. It was always for control. And the man who doesn't understand this becomes background, becomes a prop, becomes a mirror, becomes a willing victim of the play she's been rehearsing since childhood. You thought you were entering into love, but it was actually a script. And every gesture of affection she offered had an invisible target: her own emptiness. An emptiness that demands a dosage of adoration, validation, but never reciprocity, never vulnerability, never truth. This woman doesn't want to be happy with someone. She wants to be worshipped. And to her, love only has value if it comes with sacrifice, preferably yours. Because it's in your guilt that she builds her own sense of worth. She feels most alive when you feel inadequate. The red flag woman is the new symbol of emotional hysteria. She doesn't make a scene. She doesn't shed tears. She enchants, she manipulates, and makes you believe you're guilty for everything. For jealousy, for absence, for care, for silence. You will always be the one to blame, because that's how she maintains the role of moral victim. A place where she feels safe, powerful, and untouchable. Think that's an exaggeration. Revisit your past relationships. Notice who always walked away with the script in hand, who cried first, who ended up with the custody, the social affection, the money, and the story under control. This isn't a guess. We're speaking of psychic structure, of deep analysis, of a desire that isn't spoken but constantly repeated. And the red flag woman always repeats. The face changes, but the script remains the same. Her passion, enchantment, control, disorder, and the infamous emotional alimony that you pay with your mental health. If this video stirred something in you, don't pretend you didn't feel it. The man who wakes up never sleeps the same again. Comment below. Support this space, because they want to silence us. But symbolic truth cannot be silenced. It always comes back. With each revelation, a new cut. With every truth exposed, a mask falls. And if you've let yours fall too, welcome. Here, there is no romanticizing. Here, there is clarity. And in a time of emotional illusions, clarity is an act of revolution.